Hi there, I'm Vila Loukas.
I'm Vanessa Nova, and welcome back to another episode of the Cosmic Conduit podcast. It's been a while, right, Vila?
It has been a little while. We've had a significant set of shifts here in that we are moving out of the hot, bright heat of summer and into the time of autumn. And so we're shifting those Leo energies that were so big and bright and boisterous into the world of Virgo.
And for you in Colorado, I'm sure it's kind of feeling like fall already, right?
The light is changing for sure. So we're still having, summer-ish weather, but the days are getting shorter. We're moving closer to the autumn equinox. And so definitely it feels like, oh, wait a minute, it's time to like go inside. In those big, long, bright days of summer, it's like, oh, it's 8 o'clock. It's still light out. What do we want to do for the next hour or so, right? Where it's like now when it's 7 o'clock and the sun is starting to go down, it's like, oh, it's time to go in and focus on in inside activities for the last period of time before sleep, right? So definitely a shift in the focus and the psyche.
Right. Well, here in Hawaii, I'm not so much feeling it through the weather, but definitely like right when we switched over into Virgo, I definitely felt that sense of like, it's time to get my ducks in a row. Like it's time to get organized. So I started making all these lists and I was getting really organized with one, like with my thoughts and with my mind of, kind of creating a different unsimplified system for getting things done. And being a multidimensional person, I've always got all these different projects going on and, different pots that are simmering on the stove. And, it's like I can tend to feel like out of sorts and discombobulated sometimes. And I could feel like right when that shift started to come in, I just naturally, got a new notebook and I started making lists. And every day I had like sort of a structure of like kind of like a bullet journal, but
Mm.
it was just something I naturally started doing. And it's been serving me pretty well. And I'm feeling like I am getting my ducks in a row. So that's like that energy of preparing for the winter, right?
Absolutely. And Virgo, it's such a cool energy. I really love Virgo. So I'm surrounded by Virgos. So my husband is a Virgo, my son is a Virgo, a number of people who are really work closely with me are all Virgos. So it's kind of, and I'm a Libra. So, and, Libras tend to really enjoy their neighbors. So, we tend to do well with those in the wheel that are kind of nearby. And so Virgos tend to work well with Libra energy. And it's an earth sign, but it's mutable earth. So it's the one that has the most kind of movement in the world of earth. So our other earth signs, we have Taurus, which is fixed earth, and we have Capricorn, which is cardinal earth. So they're very like kind of get your get the plow in the dirt, get the foundation set, very like firm, make it happen, earth. Whereas with Virgo, it's more like, let's get it done, earth. We have tasks. I love that you referred to your lists and your, want to get things going and ducks in a row. It's like moving things around to put them into order and structure, as you said, in preparing for the winter and preparing for the cold months ahead. And specifically in reference to the harvest, right? Getting the harvest brought in preparation for the deep, cold, dark of winter.
Right. Right. I feel like also of the other earth signs, right? Virgo is the most like of the mind, like you said, that it's mutable, right?
Mm.
So I feel like there's a lot of like mental, logical energy here.
Yes, and actually the planetary ruler of Virgo is actually Mercury. So you think of Mercury, more towards the mental and air signs, but actually here, Mercury actually rules Virgo, and is that energy of assessment, and analyzing and what needs to be what and where needs to go here, and that kind of mental side of it for sure.
Right, right. So how is it? Has there anything notable for you of how it's hitting for you?
Yeah, well, let's just talk about some of the other qualities of Virgo, and then we can kind of, speak a little bit more to how it's showing up. So, Virgo is a very helpful sign. Virgo energy wants to be of service. Virgo wants to do things, but doing it in a helpful way. So, not just action for the sake of action. So, like when we talk about Aries wanting to like move into action, that fire energy that just wants to make things happen, it's not necessarily, it's more like willfully to engage, right? But here, the action that's happening with Virgo is really towards something for the greater good. So there's a very big service theme in the world of Virgo, very detail oriented. Some of the archetypes that exist here in Virgo, one of my favorites, which I would say, is definitely how it shows up for me big time, is as a healer. So as you are, I am professionally in the world. That's how I work. That's how I use my time and my energy is as a healer. And so, it's really a very fun application of Virgo energy because you do have to be very organized. You have to have all your tools and have all your gear. And, I'm sure someday it'd be really fun, Vanessa, to take people on a little tour of our, of our tools, right? I'm sure between the two of us, we have probably, I don't know, probably close to 100 crystal wands, right? And if we started looking at our herb collections and just, all these things that we use to do our magical work and to engage, the energy of healing, which is a very Mercury related thing, because Mercury also is associated with the magician and the work of magic. And so we have all of those themes that come here in Virgo as well.
Yes. Yeah, I can definitely feel that sense of like, word we were talking about earlier in that really makes sense for Virgo is precision.
Mm.
Like, my experience of Virgos in my life, like what I've seen is like, I mean, also I have my North Node in Virgo, so that's a pretty big influence for me. It's like sort of like a lifetime influence kind of thing, like over my lifetime. And that's what I need to do to resolve whatever karma or to balance myself from what I came in with, would be Virgo. And so that's creating systems and organization and things like that. But I think one of the things I've seen in just like all the Virgos in my life, and you have some as well, right? You have Virgos very close to you, that there's a sort of like particularity about preferences and about really like it's a specificity,
Mm-hmm,
whether it's
mm-hmm.
about food or how your clothes are or how your routine is. Like there's a very specific precise way that things need to be done. So, that can also get into the shadow side of it, which is like being really strict and stringent about that and being attached to it and being kind of militant about it, right? Like
Right.
it has to be this way or, my way or the highway.
Yes. And we're going to go into, talking about the shadow side of Virgo here in a moment. But, the other thing that's really actually also goes along with the healer archetype is the nurturing aspect of Virgo. Virgo also, really enjoys caring for and nurturing and nourishing, and again, that particularity that you were speaking to. So also makes Virgos really good at being caretakers or caregivers, right? Because there's a place for that immediate application. So then what can happen in the world of Virgo is, with that shadow side of it, is being too particular, right? Being overly either perfectionistic or critical or kind of hyper focused on the details, where it's like, oh, kind of OCD, right? Where it's like everything has to be just perfect.
Right.
Ah!
Right.
And then sort of losing the flow, losing the capacity, being constricted.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it can be kind of like, abrasive for other people, or like, this isn't going to work for me. And, it's like a stubbornness, or yeah, like
Right.
a rigidness that's like, stop the flow for sure.
Exactly. Right. And the other thing I would love to just kind of circle in here. So Virgo, the word itself, usually, and then, in the image that we see in the, sometimes as far as like when you look at it in the zodiacal, just, imagery, is that of a virgin, right? So it's a female being. and
Right.
and so there's some interesting references here, and so I'd love to just take a couple moments and talk about this energy of Virgo as the virgin, and what is virgin energy, because what we were talking about before in the precision side of Virgo is really referencing this aspect of purity, and the purity is the Virgo. That's what that virgin reference is. And so it's not so much about sexual purity as it is about, a connection to that which is correct. And so, so there's, we tend to sort of have this understanding of what we think a virgin is. And when you actually look into ancient references, it's not specifically talking about, you know, a woman before she's become sexually active. Like that's actually more of a modern understanding of what that term means.
Yeah, this is good stuff that we haven't, it's not really like talked about in modern astrology that often, about like what is the meaning of Virgo as the virgin. But it is more about, right, purity and this desire to serve.
Right. And so like actually when you look up from the ancient Latin, because that's where the Virgo term comes from, the it actually is referring to a woman who is available. And so not necessarily available to be married, but available in her time. And so like really it's a reference to a woman who's not obligated by in the world of child rearing. So she's not currently totally occupied with raising kids. And so
Yeah.
she's available for other things. She's available to help. She's available to nurture. She's available to be somebody who's taking part of the harvest or maybe coordinating that. So it could be a woman before she's had children, could be a Virgo, a virgin, or even a woman later on in life whose children have already left the house, right? And sometimes, if women started bearing children at a really young age, having kids when they're 20, right? Then by the time they're 40, the kids are up and gone, right? 40 is not very old to be, that's still
Right.
a lot of capacity to contribute. So, that term Virgo or the virgin in that sense is someone who's available to come and be a part of what the community needs.
Yeah, as I'm listening to you, I'm also thinking about, this sense of purpose and worth coming from, if you have children, like that's your sense of purpose in that moment, like raising the children, and like they're the immediate priority. But when you are able to be available and you can serve, your sense of self-worth can come from that place as well. So it gives this opportunity to define a greater sense of self-worth.
Yes. And I love that you brought up self worth just now, because one of the other kind of shadow aspects of Virgo is where that there becomes sort of an abandoning of the self, so to speak, right? Where then it's like, because it is such a helpful sign, that it's like, oh, only through helping others do I have a sense of self for myself. That's where I derive my self-worth, right? That becomes a shadow version of Virgo, where it's like I'm only worthy or I'm only valuable if I'm helping somebody else. And so that external validation piece can be a real sticking point for where Virgo energy can kind of turn in on itself a little bit.
Yes, I definitely have seen that sort of complex play out in people's lives, where it's like, if they don't, like, they're so desperate to find some kind of place where they fit in so that they can help, and if they don't, they feel like they don't have a purpose or worth at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because from like a sort of modern society perspective, there is this like, you know, I have to find a job. I have to, like, you know, develop my, go to school and get an education so I can find the place where I can plug in to this externalized world that's going to give me a role and an identity that's going to make me feel okay, right? So in some ways, all of that structural, you know, like, that's very Virgo. It's very like, okay, where do I fit? How can I plug in? How do I, you know, make a contribution that's going to help me feel okay about myself? And that's kind of it, you know, it's a shadow aspect of Virgo, but it's more, it's almost like a shell of the Virgo function. And what's missing from that shell is that, you know, that deeper inner connection, which kind of brings us to our, you know, our new paradigm anchor for Virgo. You want to tell everybody what it is?
Yes. I know, as you're talking, I'm just feeling all this energy come in about it, and like the sense of Virgo in its higher arc is coherent contribution.
Yeah.
I love it, because along with everything that we've been talking about just now, it's like there's this desire to contribute, there's this desire to serve, and it has to be coming from this place of self-knowledge.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be coming from a place like, I know myself and I know what my gifts are. And because I know what my gifts are, and because I have this desire to serve, and because I have the logic and the precision to create the systems for me to give my gifts, and, you know, like a structure for that to flow into the world, then all of it was working together in a coherent way.
Yes, 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 yes. And I want to just take a moment here because I feel, you know, Virgo it is a very feminine sign, right? So even just in the reference to Virgo as the Virgin, and just, you know, there's a lot of feminine energy here. It's, you know, and this tends to be a pitfall for a lot of women to feel like we are defined by that which is outside of us, right? Or like the role we play in the larger whatever it is, the role we play for the family, the role we play for, you know, in partnership, the role we play outside of ourselves is what defines us or gives us value. And, you know, unfortunately, it's just a really, really, really long history of that means by which the feminine finds value in the world. And it's kind of a big thing that really, really, really needs to shift right now. And, you know, I know that's something you're really passionate about, and it's a huge passion of mine. And, you know, just personally, and with the people that we work with, both men and women, and, you know, people identifying as any and all of the above, right? That it's understanding a true expression of the feminine and what is feminine power, and that it needs to come from a different place. The sense of feminine value and the sense of feminine worth needs to be coming from a different place, and not from only what I can contribute. And so I love this like coherent contribution because it's really redefining what it means to contribute something of value. Redefining where we derive value from.
You know, this is so juicy and exciting, because we, you know, like, I love it when these kind of tidbits come in that we didn't plan for. And, you know, I want to bring in for our listeners too, that like, this movie that just came out, the Barbie movie, right? Like, it exploded and it's done so well. And, you know, some people understand it and some people don't really understand it. Some people loved it, some people hated it. So it was one of those movies that was really polarizing. But like, what I wanted to say about it is, like, in the movie there is a monologue, you know, where America Ferrera is just exploding about all these conflicting different archetypes and expectations of what a woman's worth is, right, and what we're expected to be. And that's all of these confusing, distorted messages. So really, for me, like, that's what I took away from that movie, is that, again, it has to come back to, who am I? Like, you know, who am I? What are my gifts? What am I contributing to the world? And then you create your own value. You create your own role in the world and contribute to the world, not based on like what society or what your community tells you you're worth. You do that from an internal place. So that's a gift that Virgo is bringing us here. It's so beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I love to, introduce, if people don't know, the actual constellation of Virgo is a goddess. And she actually has a name and a story and all of that. And her name is Estrella. And what's so fun is that as we're talking about this, she is an archetype, an energy that can really support exactly what we're talking about, how to tap into this coherent contribution, bringing something forward and giving it to the world from a place of purity, from a place of what's true and right, and not from a mixed kind of motivation, right? Or I'm trying to get something, so therefore I do it and this other thing. So anyway, her name is Estrella, and she is, so comes from the Greek mythology. And the story goes that so she's a goddess of justice, of purity, of precision. And she was a huge fan and supporter of humanity, really, 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 really believing in human potential and human capacity, and just really loving, huge cheerleader for human race. And walked amongst humans during the golden age of humanity, according to the ancient Greek system. And she stayed on Earth kind of longer than all of the rest of the celestial beings. All the rest of the gods kind of were like, yeah, peace out, we're done here. We've given what we can give, we've contributed what we have to give, and now it's up to humans to decide what to do. And she stayed longer than the rest, and basically to help and support and to contribute, to be of service to humanity. And she was so dedicated to that cause, the cause of the progression of humanity, that Zeus saw her service and, basically rewarded her as giving her a place, in the stars, and making her the constellation of Virgo. And so she also then, as Virgo in the stars, is a place of inspiration for humanity, looking up and to see, like, here is this this star goddess. Her name actually means Estrella. It comes from, Estrella, astrology, that term for star, and that pristine, pure expression of the goodness that we hold as light beings. And so she's, here as a model and a reference and an encouragement for all of this coherence that we're referring to.
I love that. I think this is the first time I've heard of her, but it just makes so much sense that that kind of purity and justice and precision is something that we need, because we live in a world of like so much chaos. Our minds are chaotic, like everything is chaotic. And what we really need, like, I've been saying this over and over again, is coming from a place of knowing who you are and what your gifts are. And when you have those pieces, like, let's talk about coherence, like that
Yes.
word, the word coherence means when all the parts are in order and they're working together. And when we have chaos, things aren't working together properly. Like when your words are not coherent or your thoughts are not coherent, it's not as effective, and you're not actually getting the point across. So when we can serve from a place of coherence, we're coming from like the correct place, and we're also, achieving an impact that is at a higher level, at a higher vibration. And I think that's a theme that we keep talking about every time with every archetype, is like, what does this archetype look like, and how can we actually raise ourselves to a different level or frequency in our service, in our leadership in the world.
Absolutely. And I love this term coherence. Like, it just, like, when I hear it, I don't know, it makes me feel, I just feel like, oh yeah, ooh, I mean, and it's similar to harmony, which is another word that I love, and we're going to come into that word with Libra in our anchor, new paradigm anchor for Libra. But coherence is a little bit, it's very technical, right? So harmony, yes, has its more of a artistic musical
Right.
side, but coherence actually is a term that's used in mathematics, it's used in physics, and it's referring to this very technical place where different units of measurement and different aspects of even like brainwave states are working together and have this coherent way, this, coherence. The word is coming from the Latin cohesion, the adhering and working together, things coming together in a way that works well and then can take us to the next level. And I think that's what I love about it, is it just implies that, like, oh yes, by having coherence, there's something we can do together that we couldn't do apart from one another. One of these waves on its own can't do anything near what, the coherent waves coming together can accomplish or make happen.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that. It's also, I think the coherence happens within first, and then it happens within your community, and then it happens within, the greater service of who you're here to serve.
So you know what? I'm going to talk about that a little bit, Vanessa, because I think we tend to do it the opposite, right? And it kind of like what I was just describing before, like, okay, we got to figure out, okay, what kind of degree I want to get, to what kind of job I want to get, to how I'm going to be in society. We're constantly thinking about the outer first instead of really, working on inner coherence. So what does that mean to you? What is being coherent within yourself? What does that look like? What does it feel like?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think for me right now, just going back to my example of what Virgo energy has been bringing into my life, it's been actually like creating lists and structures and routines that allow me to inhabit and embody all the different parts of myself that I'm integrating. And not leave other pieces behind. Like there's all these gifts that I have, but sometimes I leave one of them or two really important ones over there in the corner because I'm busy over here. And really, like, I truly believe that, as we are multidimensional beings, we need to find that coherence. Like we need to find that way of being all the molecules spinning in the correct way, right? So that we can achieve more of a quantum state of being.
I love that. The image that I got when you were talking is just kind of like wholeness, like of feeling, I saw sort of this egg shape, right? Where it's like everything is contained herein, and finding that cohesion, that coherence with all of those inner parts. And then it reminded me of, the Hermetic reference of correspondence, right? As within, so without. So when you create that coherence of all of the pieces within you, then you can take that out and create, this coherent contribution. So it's almost like you're contributing your own inner coherence to the world outside. Ooh, that's so cool.
Ooh, juicy. I love it. I love it.
I love it.
I'm into it.
So this has been so fun to dive into, and we are going to take it to the next level with our our online new moon Virgo ceremony coming up very, very soon. We'd love to have you all join us. We're going to be diving into how do we create that coherence and that coherent contribution, really putting this energy of Virgo to work for us and helping support us. And we will actually be working with the goddess Estrella, which I'm so excited about because she's just fantastic. And using her support to find that inner coherence, and then allowing it to then help us get organized, like you've been speaking to, Vanessa, with the lists, and here's what I need to do, and understanding what are the right actions to take. And so that bringing that coherence from within and applying it to the world outside.
Yes, absolutely. And if you're just joining us or new to this podcast, we have our podcast every month for each archetype of the zodiac, and then we also have a ceremony that we are doing it's a self ceremony we guide you through in community to really connect with the essence of the energies of the archetype and anchor and embody them in the world. So we will be working with coherent contribution, and you can go back and listen to the last episodes, and we'll be continuing on through the zodiac.
And and the thing is, these zodiacal archetypes have been with us from the beginning, and they're going to continue to be with us, and they grow and evolve alongside us. And so that's really what this whole series is about. The Cosmic Conduit is about, you know, we're in this new era. We're launching into this new paradigm, and so we have a new expression that's coming through of these zodiacal archetypes with this new energy. And so this is what we're exploring: is what are these energies about, and then more specifically, how can I use them? How can each of you use them? That's the practical application side of it. How can you put it to use for yourself in your life to make things better, right? To have a more ease and flow. And really what we're all about is this true authentic expression of self, and how that can bring us what we like to refer to as bliss streaming, where, you know, you're just moving through your life from this blissful, joyful, abundant place where things flow together and come together really in this coherent kind of way, right? And so by engaging these archetypes and allowing them to support us through these self ceremonies, and through, you know, just the knowledge and understanding and conversation and being together in a like-minded community, this is how we make it happen.
It's already happening, Vila.
Yeah.
So we hope you will join us. And we also work in person, but as for the Cosmic Conduit, you can join us for our ceremonies, sign up for our next one, whatever that next one will be, and we hope to see you soon.